Welcome into the Boys Collective episode 32, Cowboys Washington football team preview right here on 105 through the fan on YouTube. Kevin Gray here alongside Super Bowl winning scout and 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation, Bryan Broaddus. Bryan, happy football Friday to you. The Dallas Cowboys officially back in the tournament for the first time since 2018.
How about that? That's just, it's funny though, KG. I mean, I've been kind of thinking that San Francisco was going to be one of these teams that you're going to have to worry about. So that's just the way the NFL has become. Every time you think that somebody's going to get a little momentum, they find a way to lose a football game. And, but yeah, good for the Cowboys last night to get into the tournament. That's the most important thing is to be a part of that. But then, they've got some bigger things, some bigger aspirations. You're sitting there now at the second seed. You're thinking either hold position or go forward. And, we'll see what happens with the Packers. Again, I always like to say, and David Hellman from DallasCowboys.com loves it when I say this, the NFL is a strange lady. And so you just don't know. And, again, we're going to talk about the football team today being the Washington football team. And you just don't want to slip up in these games. You have a team that's kind of reeling a little bit because of some COVID situations and injuries and stuff like that. So home game, go win this division this week and then work from there to try and take care of some positioning along the way.
You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. Yeah, exactly. You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to subscribe to 105 through the fan here on YouTube. And you can also find us on all of our social media platforms at 105.3 the fan. Let's dive into it. The Dallas Cowboys sit at 10-4, the number 2 seed in the NFC playoffs. If the season were to end today, they are locked into the playoffs by virtue of Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the Cowboys into the playoffs in their loss to the Tennessee Titans on Thursday Night Football. This means now the Dallas Cowboys have a chance to lock up the NFC East on Sunday Night Football, taking on a Washington football team that has pretty much been put out of its own misery after losing to the Philadelphia Eagles on Tuesday. They're coming off of a short week to AT&T Stadium where they will try to salvage something to try and compete against this Cowboys football team. Bryan, let's start on the offensive side of the football. Much has been made about this Cowboys offense and the lack of production, or I should say the inconsistent production of this football team offensively over the last 6-7 weeks. They are coming back home, though, to a place in AT&T Stadium where this year they were averaging 35.5 points per game inside of AT&T Stadium. Is it a simple matter of getting some home cooking for the Cowboys offensively, knowing how potent they've been offensively, or is there certain things that you're looking for in this game that will give you indications that both either home and away, this offense is getting back to where it needs to be?
Team is really good offensively in the red zone at home and not so much on the road. And that's the splits that, you kind of say, wow, you figure if you're good in one area, you should be good in another. And it's really not the case for the Cowboys. And, KG, my whole thing with the Cowboy offense is that, to me, it is going to be about its ability to run the football early, and the Philadelphia Eagles had success against the Washington football team running the ball. I mean, the Eagles, there's a couple of teams that have made just the commitment to run and protect their quarterbacks. Philadelphia is one of those teams that's done that. Indianapolis Colts is the other. And so to me, Philadelphia's line is different from your line. It's a bigger line. It's not as athletic as I don't think, but they were able to make some good lanes for their backs, in that game when they were able to block Daron Payne. They were able to block Jonathan Allen. They were able to block Montez Sweat. And, and then, Cole Holcomb, the linebacker, who is not going to play in this game because of the COVID situation. So, yeah, the Eagles did a nice job of kind of giving you an idea of, how to go after, how to attack. I think if I see the Cowboys have red zone success and they're running the ball early in this game, and I'm not talking about it has to be chunk runs, but if it's 4, 5, 6 yards a shot, and those runs as you get going turn into 10, 12, 13-yard runs too as the game gets going, as the more you wear somebody down and kind of take their will to compete. And I kind of feel like that the Cowboys are going to try and do that a little bit in this football game. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a little bit more of Tony Pollard in this game. I mean, me personally, I've said this before, KG, if teams aren't going to blitz Dak Prescott, go ahead and start Tony Pollard in these games, because he's, Zeke is your better blitz pickup guy. But if it turns into, if teams aren't going to come after you, we'll put the guy on the field that's going to make the most explosive plays. I think the Cowboys, if they get the opportunity to get the ball, they take the ball, you get it probably at the 25, you drive it 75 yards, and maybe 38 of those yards are Tony Pollard running the football. You just establish that, hey, this is going to be one of those games where you don't stop the run very well, and we're going to do it, and we're going to play with balance today. I think that's the thing that I'm looking for the most. How much balance can this Cowboy football team get? Because when it is balanced, the quarterback plays much, much better.
It's interesting you talked about the blitz and the lack thereof that we've seen, that the Cowboys offense has seen. Right. The Washington defense is blitzing its opponents on 31.3% of passing plays in 2021, the sixth highest blitz rate in the NFL this year.
There you go.
So, and Dak Prescott has excelled, of course, against the blitz in 2021, throwing a league high 17 touchdown passes, and has a passer rating of nearly 109 against the blitz this year. So it sounds like for Jack Del Rio and his defense, it'd be wise for him not to necessarily pressure this particular quarterback.
Well, yeah, no, but that's to your point, though. If you're telling me someone's going to blitz you 31%, then that takes my thought of, because I didn't see the Cowboys, I didn't see the football team blitz Dak Prescott all that much, in the game last time that these two teams met 2 weeks ago. So, they were just kind of feeling like, though, that maybe we could get pressure with the front, even though they didn't have defensive ends and stuff. But, Dak Prescott, him and Lamar Jackson through week 8, they were the two most blitzed quarterbacks in the league. And Dak Prescott, the ball for him, the 20-yard shots that he was taking were because teams were blitzing him. He knew, okay, blitz coming from here, ball needs to go out. I've got one-on-one over here. So, if the football team looks at the metrics and says, well, if you don't blitz them, you have success. Again, 2 weeks ago, there might be a different game plan. They might feel like that, with Steele and Nsicky playing at left tackle, it might feel like, and Sweat back in it, they might say, listen, let's attack Connor Williams. Let's attack whoever's playing left tackle. Let's force them to have to pick up some blitzes. And again, if it turns into early in that game, you see them blitzing, then that's where you're going to need Ezekiel Elliott back in this game. But, Dak Prescott has shown the ability to make teams pay if they blitz. I just don't know if Jack Del Rio has the guts to do it in this game.
Washington has allowed at least 31 points to the Cowboys in 4 of its past 5 trips to AT&T Stadium. So there could be a lot of points on the board, given some of the history we've seen between these two teams. But more importantly, this offense needed to get back on track. And it's interesting because you were talking about the red zone, and as far as the targets, especially when it comes to perimeter players, Amari Cooper, in the most calm way I've ever heard a player express frustration, talk to you and Jeff Kavanaugh of the G-Bag Nation about the frustration in the red zone, particularly when it comes to opportunities, and not only on third down, but also in the red zone. Is this a game where you see the Cowboys making a concerted effort to get Amari Cooper involved when it comes to not only making plays down the field, but as he talked about, trying to find some of the explosive plays against cover 2 that this team has not been using, apparently, according to Amari Cooper, that they may need to use going forward for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think that, and, people don't take this the wrong way about Amari Cooper. This is not, I've had people tweet at me that, this is locker room division and all that. No, this is just a guy knowing that, hey, there's some opportunities there. And they know that he understands. He goes, our offense is not carrying its part of the weight here with the team. He goes, the defense is playing super, and we have got to, we have to talk about complementary football and stuff like that. But, this is about Amari Cooper knowing, hey, I line up, I see what's going on. Amari Cooper's probably the healthiest he's been all season now. And he's, we were talking it last week in our Giants breakdown. That's a team that was on, they were struggling at cornerback. They were not very good in the secondary, and they didn't take advantage of that. That Dak Prescott ended up with like 217 yards passing. Sure, they had some drops and stuff along the way, but there should have been some pounding of these corners. There should have been the slants, the ends. There should be things. I mean, if you're going to play cover 2 and stuff like that, maybe you don't want to run a bunch of slants into safety standing in the middle of the field. But there are other opportunities. There's vertical routes. There's routes in space. There's outs. There's corner routes. There's things that they could do offensively that can help them going forward. And Amari Cooper, we talk about frustration and all that. No, Amari Cooper was just pointing out that the offense is capable of making these plays. They're just not doing it right now. And, whether it's Kellen Moore or it's the quarterback or the offensive line or the receivers, they've all had a hand in this offense really slowing down from the first 8 weeks of the season. And so I was appreciative of Amari Cooper for pointing that out. He's right. He's like, listen, I know how to get open in this league. To quote, Keyshawn Johnson, throw me the damn ball, and I think that's where Amari Cooper's at right now, is that he knows that they're capable of his targets to catch ratio has always been really, really good. He just hasn't had the opportunities. I mean, look at his numbers, 3 catches, 4 catches, 3 catches, 5 catches, that's not Amari Cooper football. It's Amari Cooper football. Look what they did in the Minnesota game. And I give Cooper Rush some credit. He said, hey, my best receiver is Amari Cooper. I'm going to load him up, 12, 13 targets. We're going to get 8, 9 catches out of that, and we're going to get a game winner. That's kind of where Amari Cooper feels like he can help this football team. And I applaud him for wanting to play that way.
It's interesting you mentioned the Minnesota game, because he hasn't had 8 targets in a game since the Minnesota game, right, where Cooper Rush, it felt like, was going to him play after play after play, which is a pretty good idea. When it works. So I'm interested to see how Kellen Moore, either based on what changes they are going to make offensively or the vocalization of Amari Cooper saying, hey, use me as far as this red zone and third down stuff, and maybe we'll see him get much more involved in this game, which I think in turn will help Dak Prescott get back to the kind of rhythm that he sees, because I don't think there's anything more friendly to a quarterback than getting into rhythm with his best pass catcher, theoretically, with some short, quick passes, get some confidence between him and the receiver going, to at least feel like there's some rhythm to an offense that I feel like is a rhythm-based offense anyway, and that way that can happen going against a shorthanded Washington football team in this game. Conversely, on the other side, this Dallas Cowboy defense has been the talk of the National Football League. 4 turnovers at least in the last 3 games. A team that has 31 takeaways, tied for first in the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts. Trayvon Diggs, 10 interceptions. Micah Parsons, 12 sacks in 14 games. You can go on and on and on about what this defense has done. But folks will say, well, hey, you did it against Taysom Hill. You did it against Taylor Heineke. You did it against Mike Glennon. When is this team going to show, quote unquote, themselves against a good, quote unquote, quarterback? That won't necessarily happen this weekend. But from a habits perspective and how they're going to attack this Washington offense, what do you like most about what the Dallas Cowboys have done, especially during the second half of the season, that indicates that, hey, when we get to the Kyler Murrays, when we get to the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's, they can still do these things against the upper echelon and upper tier of quarterbacks in this league?
This defense, and I think the most beneficial thing was that when you look at this defensive staff, with Dan Quinn and the guys, George Edwards and everybody over there, they played so many games without their star players. And I'm talking about what we thought about Neville Gallimore, what we thought about Tank Lawrence. Randy Gregory's been off and on the field. They have done a great job of learning their backup players and what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. And I think that's where Dan Quinn now has an advantage, because he could take Neville Gallimore. He could take Tank Lawrence. He could take these guys. He could take Randy Gregory. He knows, listen, I've got, whereas we're all kind of saying, oh, maybe the offense is holding something back. the defense doesn't appear to be holding anything back. I mean, they're giving you looks. It's like Dan Quinn said, listen, I had to play pretty much basic, but I had a few wrinkles here and there. And now he's like, listen, I'm going to see what covering all the offensive linemen look like, and then blitzing Michael Parsons, where Antonio Gibson, the back for the football team, has to block him, and then it turns into a sack. I'm going to put Neville Gallimore on the nose and have him push as hard as he can and then drive him into Taylor Heineke. Those are the things that Dan Quinn is now learning about, that he learned about his team along the way. And now he has these new pieces that he could say, okay, this is what I envisioned to do when they were in training camp, or this is what I envisioned, when we did in OTAs. And, you scheme up, you come up with ideas. And I think when you look at this, for say, looking ahead a little bit, Arizona, they're down some players over there. They're down some key offensive players. But what you have is you have the speed to now handle a guy like Kyler Murray. You have the speed in a Micah Parsons that can run him down. You have the speed in a Tank Lawrence that can run him down. You have the speed and quickness in Randy Gregory to run him down. You've got pieces that can go run a Kyler Murray down, but they, with Hopkins not being in their lineup, that presents a whole different look for Arizona. And I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona comes in there on a 3-game losing streak. The Indianapolis Colts are physically going to run the ball tomorrow on them on Christmas Day, and they're going to challenge their manhood up front. They, with Chandler Jones and those guys, and Isaiah Simmons and those guys, if they can stop the run. And if they can't, then they're going to physically get beat up. And they'll keep the ball away from Kyler Murray. We always kind of talk about how's the best thing to handle these quarterbacks. But in the Cowboys situation, if it turns into Arizona having to throw the ball a ton, Dallas is equipped to cover, and they're equipped to put pressure on you. And I think those are the things that we've learned about with Dan Quinn and what he's been willing to do here the last several weeks.
The Cowboys have a 9-2 record this season when they record at least 2 takeaways in a game. The 31 takeaways that they've had have led to 98 points, which is the second most points off of turnovers in the National Football League this year. This feels like another game, just like we saw 2 weeks ago. Randy Gregory had the interception to really kind of turn things as far as the momentum toward the Dallas Cowboys and their defense. I feel like in this game, DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Neville Gallimore with his pressure up the middle, I just see Taylor Heineke just being under siege all day in this game, given Antonio Gibson may not be playing in this game. He's dealing with a toe injury currently. He's questionable. I just don't see anything that threatens the Dallas Cowboys defense in that way. And I think one of the underrated aspects of the game the first time around, before Terry McLaurin had the concussion in that game, Trayvon Diggs, took him all the way out of that game. And that's really the only pass catching threat for the Washington football team that would kind of put any kind of fear, on a Dallas Cowboy defense. And Trayvon Diggs handled that beautifully in the first time around. So I feel like there's a lot of ways that Dan Quinn can get after this Washington offense. And it feels like they could have a big day as far as either takeaways or just really putting pressure on the quarterback all day in this particular game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, KG. And this is and there were a lot of fans at FedEx Field, a lot of Cowboy fans at FedEx Field, which made a lot of noise. Now you're talking about potentially with the football team. We'll see what happens today with Tyler Larson, who's the center. He's been on the COVID list. Brandon Sheriff, who I think is their best offensive lineman, has been on the COVID list. We'll see what happens with them. But yeah, this is a team now, and the Cowboy fans are going to get into it. They're going to be frenzied into the excitement of this football game, and they can create problems. They can create noise problems, sound problems for the football team. And you're right. I don't think there's anything. If the way that the Cowboys can lose this game, in my opinion, is if they themselves offensively are bad in the red zone. I mean, this last time these two teams met, this should have been a 35 to 6 game or something.
Yeah.
And it should not even have been a close game. And it was only close at the end because the Cowboys made a terrible, decision there to, an interception ended up into be a pick six. But football team offensively, I do respect Terry McLaurin and Adam Humphries, and and I do think Cam Sims. I mean, we saw Cam Sims make some incredible plays in this game. So we will see. DeAndre Carter is another one as a kick returner, punt returner. You can't beat his sleep, but if the Cowboys, I think, lose this game, it would be because they're just themselves are not very good in the red zone. But you're right. 2 weeks ago, I mean, I think Taylor Heineke took himself out of that game. I think he physically just said, I'm checking out. I'm not playing this game anymore. And after the center was in his lap, after he was dealing with that, he kind of felt like that, what, I'm tired of getting hit. This is not working for me. I'm not going anywhere. But again, go out there and take these guys' will to compete. I say that quite a bit. But when a team is beat up and battered and dealing with these new COVID issues, go take it from them. You're the healthier team. You're playing at home. Figure out some things offensively and just have this pass rush get after them. And hopefully you get some more turnovers. You get some short field stuff and you can take advantage of that.
Stats you need to know for this game. Micah Parsons, with his 12 sacks this year, are tied for the most by a rookie in the past 10 seasons. The last rookie with more was Aldon Smith back in 2011 when he had 14 in that year. Quickly, let's go to our X factors real quick. As far as an X factor or two in this game, what are you going to be looking for either offensively or defensively that will allow the Dallas Cowboys to get a win on Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, I do think it's going to come down to, I just don't see the football team being really able to run the ball. I kind of thought when they met 2 weeks ago that maybe that would be a strength of theirs. I just don't think so with Gibson, being nicked up the way he is and stuff. I just don't see it. So if it turns into a throwing game, then now it's going to become about the Cowboys secondary. It's going to become can Diggs take McLaurin? Can they cover Humphries? Can they make sure that Cam Sims doesn't make plays on him? So, any type of pass that's going down the field, pressure, ball hawk, go get the football. They did a great job last time, except really towards the end of the game where, football team was able to make some plays. Cam Sims made a hell of a catch, in that one touchdown. So I'm just kind of thinking, though, if X factors in this game are the three guys in the secondary, the three corners primarily, that are going to have to play coverage. Play the tight coverage that you did last time. Don't allow Taylor Heineke to have any really clean passes that way. And I think this team could be all right that way with those guys covering these receivers.
My only X factor in this game, and it isn't necessarily a strategic one or a schematic one, it's more about focus and intensity for this Cowboys team, because it could be a natural feeling to have somewhat of a letdown. Hey, we're in the playoffs. We're trying to move forward for the rest of the season, making sure guys are staying healthy. But as you mentioned, you've got a chance to put the Washington football team out of their misery and really take it to them in front of your home crowd where you haven't been back home since before since Thanksgiving. That's the last time you were home. So now they have a chance in front of a national audience to be able to show the rest of the National Football League that what they've been doing over the last 3 weeks on the road isn't a fluke, and that they can come home and rekindle this offense that they've been looking for. And more importantly, announce to the rest of the league that going into the Arizona game, that the focus and intensity will remain there as they continue to pursue the number one seed in the NFC playoffs, which is still very much in reach for them, by the time you get the season's in.
Absolutely. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow with and Christmas Day with the Packers. The Browns are fighting for their lives right now. Desperate teams. I mean, the Packers are about to face two desperate teams back to back. They're about to face the Browns and they're going to face the Vikings. And I will say this about Detroit on the last game of the year. I don't think Dan Campbell's team's going to roll over. I think they're going to try and win games down the stretch. I know the record's been bad, but the majority of the Lions games this year, they've played their rear off. And I don't think they're going to want to go out just like on a whimper, but it's possible. You just got to go take care of your games and go get that number one seed if it becomes available to you. But KG, in the industry, they always talk about this game. This is a hat and T-shirt game. In the hat and T-shirt games, you always want to make sure at the end of the day you get the hat and the T-shirt. If you have a chance to go get the T-shirt and the hat, go get it. That it says NFC East champs, go get
Mm-hmm.
the hat, go get the t-shirt, and then you work from there. You know, some of the greatest moments I ever had when I was working in Green Bay was you win. We used to win. It was a Central Division. You got the hat. You enjoyed the hat. And then you went and you won the NFC championship. You got that hat and a t-shirt. And then you won the Super Bowl. You got that hat and t-shirt. So hat and t-shirt games usually mean a lot to you. Go out and find a way to get this done, like we've been talking about all day. The football team is there for the taking. Don't give them any reason to hang around in this game.
Dallas has won 4 of the last 5 matchups at home against the Washington football team. Will look to make it 5 out of 6 on Sunday Night Football. You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. The Dallas Cowboys host the Washington football team on Sunday Night Football. Pregame starts with Ari Timken and Bryan Broaddus around 3:15 to tune in on Odyssey and the Odyssey app, and of course on 105 through the Fan. Ari and Bryan will have your pre-halftime and post-game shows on 105 through the Fan. They'll be working a little late night. They'll be up with you till 1 a.m. on Sunday night. I know Bryan just didn't want to hear that right now, but he'll be up with you.
That's okay, man. Hey, hat and t-shirt, man. Just go get the hat and t-shirt. That's all that matters. Yep.
We look forward to the coverage all day on 105 through the Fan on Sunday. For the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find us again on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports, Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. And subscribe to 105 through the Fan here on YouTube. And of course, everything on 105 through the Fan.com. Been another episode of the Boys Collective. Bryan, as always, appreciate the time and look forward to talking to you next week.
Sounds great, KG. Happy holidays, man.
Same to you.